In professional sports, there is one ironclad rule. The team is eternal, and the athlete is temporary. A player's physical prime lasts maybe a decade, while the franchise is built to survive for generations. No organization enforces this dynamic quite like the National Football League. It is a century-old, multi-billion-dollar machine engineered to ensure that no single person ever outgrows the collective enterprise. Every year, teams churn through hundreds of elite prospects. Organizations regularly trade away legends and cut aging veterans to keep the machinery moving forward and hunt for the next championship. The design is entirely intentional. The logo painted on the side of the helmet must always outweigh the name stitched on the back of the jersey. The ultimate proof of that organizational power is the Vince Lombardi Trophy. Over the course of nearly 60 Super Bowls, two franchises have climbed higher than anyone else to define the absolute ceiling of team success. The Pittsburgh Steelers built their six-championship legacy across decades. It required completely different eras of football, multiple head coaches, and entirely separate generations of rosters from the 1970s well into the 2000s. The New England Patriots eventually matched that count. For a long time, 6 rings stood as the absolute mathematical limit of what a heavily funded, fully staffed organization could achieve. Curious, that ceiling creates a glaring mathematical problem. What happens when a single employee outproduces the entire century-long effort of those corporate giants? Tom Brady accumulated 7 Super Bowl rings. He won all of them entirely inside a single playing career. This chart lays out the stark reality of the math. You have the Patriots and Steelers maxing out at 6, and right next to them is a single quarterback sitting alone at 7. One man outscored the most successful front offices in history. The NFL deploys active mechanisms to pull successful teams back down to the average. They enforce this parity through a hard salary cap and a reverse order draft. The moment a team wins the Super Bowl, their star players demand larger contracts, and the league forces that front office to draft last in the next cycle. These rules mathematically guarantee roster turnover. You cannot afford to keep a championship team together for long before the financial constraints force you to dismantle the roster and start over. To win 7 times, Brady had to actively break a system that was explicitly designed by the league to suppress repeat winners. This visualization compares an institution's lifespan to human biology. At the top, a franchise has nearly a century to work with. At the bottom, a human body gives you roughly 20 years before it degrades. An organization can absorb injuries and bad draft classes because they constantly cycle in fresh legs and new coaches to hunt for those 6 championships over decades. Brady compiled his 7 titles using a single, aging set of joints and muscles, confined to a highly compressed biological window. To prove he was the actual engine of this success, he left New England, stepped into a completely different organizational structure in Tampa Bay, and immediately won another championship. He inverted the foundational rule of the sport. The individual became the macro institution, and the billion-dollar franchises became the tools he used to collect trophies. This statistical anomaly permanently dismantled how we measure quarterback success. In the past, achieving greatness meant outperforming your direct historical peers. For decades, the ultimate benchmark was Joe Montana's 4 championships. Under the new math, era-defining rivals with incredible careers, players who won MVPs and multiple rings, were left miles behind in the statistical dust. We now operate under the Brady standard. You no longer measure an elite quarterback against other human athletes. You measure them against entire legacy organizations. That benchmark demands a level of sustained execution over a 2-decade span that is likely biologically and mathematically impossible to repeat, which leaves an almost impossible burden on the current generation, particularly Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is dominating his era and executing the position flawlessly, yet he finds himself chasing a statistical ghost that defies the rules of modern sports. To reach a 7th ring, he has to survive another decade of hard salary cap purges, inevitable roster turnover, and the biological toll of aging. The real question isn't who the best player is right now. It's whether any individual can ever overpower the institution of the NFL again. Do you think Mahomes can actually catch him? Let me know in the comments.